In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a weighted blanket. If you are not too sure what a weighted blanket is, it's basically a blanket used for deep pressure therapy. A lot of kids with autism, ADHD and anxiety use weighted blankets to help them sleep. It just gives them a feeling of calmness and helps with their anxiety. It helps them to get a better night's sleep because the blanket gives them the feeling that someone is hugging them while they are sleeping. To make this blanket, you are going to need 2 pieces of fabric cut to the size you want the blanket to be. You will also need a piece of batting the same size as the fabric. And lastly, you are going to need plastic pellets, which will be what gives your blanket the weight. I started by joining the 2 face sides of the material together and then placed the batting on top. I then pinned all 3 sides, leaving the bottom open to put the plastic pellets in. I cut all the excess material and batting so it was all one size. Once I had pinned the sides, I was ready to start sewing. I sewed all 3 sides so the 2 pieces of the fabric and the batting were sewed together. I just double checked that all edges had been sewed properly and that there were no gaps. Just to be safe, I sewed a double row along the sides. The last thing you want is for those plastic pellets to fall out. Just a little tip, always remember to check the cotton in your bobbin before you sew a side. I ran out of cotton in my bobbin a couple of times and it was quite frustrating. Once I'd sewed all the edges, I turned the blanket the right way around. This is where you need to get your maths brain out. You need to measure the length and the width of the blanket and work out how many pockets you will be sewing into the blanket. My blanket worked out to be 12 rows in length and 6 rows across. The rows worked out to be 16 centimeters each. I just started by pinning the 6 rows across the width of the blanket. Once I had done all my calculations and my blanket was pinned, I started to sew the rows down, starting with the center to prevent the material from bulking up on one side. Unfortunately, I sewed this row skew. My OCD got the better of me, so I unpicked the whole row and started again. Second time round, I marked the material with a line down the center with a piece of chalk, as I could not find my fabric marker. This just helped so much, just to draw that line to guide you while you're sewing so that you can sew straight. Once I had sewed the middle, I moved to the side panels and continued until I had sewed all 6 rows down. So to work out how heavy the blanket needs to be, the weight of the plastic pellets for each pocket is basically calculated on 10% of your body weight. My son weighs about 40 kgs, so the blanket I was making for him needed to weigh 4 kgs. I then had to divide the weight by the number of pockets the blanket would have. So my blanket worked out to 55 grams of plastic pellets per pocket. I measured the pellets by weighing each portion on a scale. I then emptied each portion of pellets into the columns that I had sewed into the blanket. Once I had filled the first row with pellets, I picked up the open side of the blanket and just gave a little shake to get all the pellets to the bottom. After I had added the pellets to the first row, I then measured 16 centimeters lengthways, marked it with my chalk and sewed the first row of pellets closed. While you are sewing the rows closed, just watch the pellets are out of the way so that the needle does not hit the pellets. You just need to continue in this pattern until you have filled all the columns with the plastic pellets. It took quite a while to complete, but once you get into the rhythm, it does go fairly quickly. Just bear in mind that the blanket does get really heavy while you are sewing, so just use a chair next to you just to help support the blanket. I decided to not put pellets in the 2 side panels and the very last row at the bottom, as I didn't want the pellets to weigh the blanket down too much on the sides. So basically I only had 4 of the 6 rows filled with the pellets. For the last step, you just need to close up the bottom of the blanket by making a neat hem and sewing it closed. So that's it, that's the weighted blanket done. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post new videos.